says, "The Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus."
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners,
Pray for us, O Holy Mother of God,
that we may be made worthy of the promises of Christ. Pour forth, we beseech you, O Lord, your grace into our hearts, that we, to whom the incarnation of Christ, your Son, was made known by the message of an angel, may by his passion and cross be brought to the glory of his resurrection, through the same Christ our Lord. Amen.
And with high hopes for a lower alert level in Metro Manila, authorities meet with mall developers to prepare for busier days ahead. Among the proposal, change or remove curfew hours and allow longer time for shopping. Our Kalin Bonkin reports.
Business establishments like Robinson's Magnolia Mall in Quezon City are seeing better days since Metro Manila was placed under Alert Level 3.
We have experienced the recovery period in terms of our foot traffic. We are at least at 80% of the pre-COVID figures in terms of our pedestrian count.
With declining COVID cases, MMDA says the region may see a further alert downgrade soon. This means more people out and about and higher customer capacity for businesses, just in time for the holiday season. The health department says if mobility in the region won't change, daily active cases could go down from 8,200 by end of October to over 1,000 by December 15th. If mobility restrictions ease, active cases will still go down but will be around at least 2,600 daily.
Gusto natin pag nagbukas tayo, pag bumaba tayo ng alert level, bumaba siya, no? Maiwan siyang bumaba at tuloy-tuloy siyang bumaba. Pero it really requires participation from our establishments and especially, no, yung individual person na kailangan mag-practice ng ating NPH. Kailangan niyang tuloy-tuloy na paghahanap ng kaso.
To minimize health risk, MMDA is proposing new and longer mall hours from 11 a.m. to midnight and even changing or doing away with curfew hours.
With this, importante talaga ang disiplina ng bawat isa. Yung curfew, pinag-aaralan din namin para spread out ang tao, like shopping.
MMDA is also asking mall developers to limit store sales on weekdays to avoid traffic on major roads. Mall goers have mixed feelings about this.
Hanggat hindi pa talaga naging okay yung situation about the virus, mas maganda po na i-maintain na medyo higpitan. Kung lilimitahan pa rin nila yung mga kabataan na pupunta lang sa mall para lang magtambay, siguro po okay lang naman.
Para kumita, tumakbo na yung ekonomiya, yun, maganda yun. Basta yung minimum protocols.
For their part, Robinson's Mall has added marshals to remind customers of health protocols and installed air purifiers, while SM Malls also deployed more sanitation teams. Both say they remind tenants to follow the allowed capacity and all employees have been fully vaccinated.
We will always follow the IATF guidelines and LGU guidelines to ensure that transmission of virus will be eliminated or avoided.
Metro Manila is at low-risk category. As of Monday, 6 out of 100,000 people in the region catch COVID-19 daily. It's within the range to downgrade the alert level. But health officials says it's up to the IATF to determine whether or not Metro Manila will be placed under alert level 2. Caroline Bonkin, CNN Philippines.
That should have been mall operators, not developers. Now, for Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship, Joey Concepcion, it's important to have all staff fully vaccinated once Metro Manila is downgraded to Alert Level 2.
Katulad ng spa, ang salon, wala naman outdoor dyan. No? How can you require and mandate your customers to be fully vaccinated but your own employees hindi vaccinated?
Metro Manila is under Alert Level 3 until November 14. Now, with declining cases here in Metro Manila and the rest of the country, is it time to ditch face shields? The Interagency Task Force says it is reviewing the policy as a number of its members are now open to the idea of no longer using face shields. But spokesperson Harry Walker clarifies nothing is final yet.
Dahil umababa ang numero, marami ng kumbaga nagsasabi sa IATF na baka dapat itigil na rin ang pagsusuot ng face shields.
Sa outdoor, naging recommendatory na lang. But for indoors, siguro we have to make sure everyone who is vaccinated muna before we remove those face shields. Baka hindi muna dun sa mga unvaccinated. At we will continue to study this.
For now, face shields are still required in closed areas, crowded places, and close contact settings. Now, Malacanang makes another appeal to the state health insurer to pay private hospitals. The Private Hospital Association earlier said some of its members already signified lack of interest in renewing their accreditation with PhilHealth. But the palace also calls on private hospitals to stay with PhilHealth as it recognizes their crucial role in the fight against COVID-19 and in the success of the universal healthcare law. Malacanang says the Health Insurance Corporation has funds to pay their dues.
So nananawagan po ako, uulitin ko na lang po yung request ng Presidente Duterte kay President Giran, bayaran ng bayaran yan. At ako po'y nakikiusap naman sa mga pribadong hospital. Paulit-ulit naman po na pinapakita ni Presidente ang suporta niya sa mga pribadong hospital dahil kinikilala po natin na mas maraming umaasa ngayon sa mga pribadong hospital kesa doon sa mga numero ng pampublikong hospital.
Senators also again calling on PhilHealth to settle its mounting debt with hospitals as soon as possible. Senate Finance Committee Chairman Sani Angara points out PhilHealth collects millions of pesos from Filipinos and even received a 70 billion peso subsidy last year to carry out or to implement the universal healthcare law. Angara now wants the Anti-Red Tape Authority to check what's causing the bottleneck in the reimbursement of claims. For Senator Amy Marcos, PhilHealth can pay the hospitals and at the same time file cases against those involved in alleged upcasing. Senator Grace Poe says PhilHealth should come up with an aggressive catch-up plan before the healthcare system suffers financially. Some Metro Manila cities begin vaccinating minors aged 12 to 17 without underlying illnesses. These are Marikina, Navotas, Taguig, and Quezon City. Now, in Taguig, inoculation is not only for residents, it's also open to all students studying in the city. Chrissy Di Matulak has more.
Sarah Zalazar is 17 years old and lives in Taguig City. She is one of the minors who got inoculated during the dry run of the city's pediatric vaccination program. Her mother Esperanza expresses relief that her daughter is somewhat protected from COVID-19.
Para maging unti-unti na siya makabalik sa normal, makalabas. At saka para din in preparation na pagka nag-face-to-face na ang mga eskwelahan.
Another minor says he is now more confident about going out with friends because he is vaccinated.
Magiging okay na mas magiging ligtas. Opo, pero ingat na rin po.
Taguig has started vaccinating minors aged 12 to 17 and without comorbidities. The local government welcomes non-Taguig residents who want to be inoculated, provided that they go to a school in the city to register for vaccination.
Yung sa school, yun ang ipipresent ng mother. Basta magre-register lang sila and then pag nandito na, dadalhin lang nila yung certificate o yung record na doon sila sa school na yan na Taguig nag-aaral.
According to Taguig's city health officer, they have 80,000 doses of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine. Strictly, no walk-ins are allowed. Parents would have to register their children through Taguig City's Trace app or go to their barangay's health center to secure a slot for vaccination. More than 500 individuals can be accommodated per day. The vaccination site is open from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. The health department says it intends to inoculate 80% of the pediatric population by the end of the year. For the parents we spoke to, they say it is important to have their kids protected, but they call for caution in welcoming back the youngsters to the outside world. Chrissy Di Matulak, CNN Philippines.
The health department says it allowed local governments to vaccinate minors without underlying illnesses to maximize time and resources. DOH Metro Manila Director Gloria Balboa says some LGUs had few registration from the priority groups. That's why they open available slots for others. The latest data show more than 33,000 adolescents with other illnesses have been inoculated. That's only 23% of the priority group here in Metro Manila. The national government is investigating the cause of a fire that destroyed close to 150,000 COVID-19 vaccines in Zamboanga del Sur. The fire Sunday night hit a building that houses the provincial health office and the local Philippine Red Cross. In a joint statement, officials confirmed the vaccines included doses of Pfizer, Sinovac, Moderna, and AstraZeneca, as well as other routine immunization shots. The AstraZeneca vaccines were supposed to be administered as second doses, while the Moderna shots were scheduled to be used for vaccinating minors, both scheduled for tomorrow. Health and Interior Departments will lead the investigation. The Interior Department will also issue a show-cause order to the provincial government to explain its failure to deliver the vaccines 3 days after receipt, as indicated in a memorandum order. We'll go above and beyond the headlines with the chief of the Zamboanga del Sur Integrated Provincial Health Office, Dr. Natalio Cagambang Jr., later on in the program. Also coming up on Newsnight, calls mount for the Commission on Elections to call off its logistics deal with a firm tied to President Duterte's ally and campaign contributor. And are world leaders up to the task of addressing the climate crisis? We'll give you the latest on the crucial climate summit in Glasgow, Scotland. Stay tuned to CNN Philippines.
Kini ang RPN Dex Kini Radio Runda 1053 kHz. Quincentenary Faith Rewind.
Ferdinand Magellan died in the hands of Dato Lapu-Lapu in the Battle of Mactan. Spanish navigator Juan Sebastian Elcano took command of the voyage, which finally reached the Spice Islands. To date, the expedition is also known as Magellan-Elcano Expedition.
KBP marks 500 years of Christianity and visitation.
DXKD Ronda Balita. Mga balitang may kamatuuran, way gidapigan o hilisgutanan sa katawhan. DXKD Ronda Balita. Mga labas na mga balita gikan sa sinaligang mga tinugdagan. Balitang hinimo sa lawak balitaanan. Diin inyong madungog ang mga balitang lokal, regional, national o international o uban pang may kalabutan sa atong kadalilimban. Gihatod ninyo live gikan sa RPN DXKD Radio Ronda Broadcast Center. DXKD Ronda Balita. Inyong madungog.
Welcome back. Let's go back to one of our top stories. Investigation underway after close to 150,000 COVID-19 vaccines were destroyed in a fire in Pagadian City, Zamboanga del Sur on Sunday. Government officials say they're closely monitoring the probe. We go above and beyond the headlines with the chief of the Zamboanga del Sur Integrated Provincial Health Office, Dr. Natalio Cagambang Jr. Good evening, Dr. Cagambang, and welcome to Newsnight. Well, let's begin with this question. What happens now? Because the AstraZeneca doses were supposed to be administered tomorrow as second doses, and the Moderna shots were meant for minors, and that's scheduled tomorrow. Paano po yun? What's going to happen tomorrow?
Yes. Good evening po, Ma'am Pia. Just recently, mga 2 p.m. dumating yun si Regional Director of DOH Region Zamboanga City, si Dr. Joshua Brillantes, and we talk about our schedule for tomorrow for the rollout for the 12 to 17 years old for Pfizer, and also the second doses for Pfizer and also the AstraZeneca. And then recently, the fire really devastated our place in the Integrated Provincial Health Office located in Provincial Government Complex, Barangay Dao, Pagadian City. Ma'am, tapos what we talk about is our plan for next week. If ever, may dumating ngayon na vaccines but only Sinovac and AstraZeneca tonight, 9 p.m. Para yung mga nakaschedule tomorrow for Astra and Sinovac, we can give also the vaccination tomorrow. But for the Pfizer and Moderna, we will wait for the, especially for Pfizer, we will wait for the ultra-low freezer na darating this week para ma-schedule nila magbigay ng another Pfizer vaccines for next week and also for Moderna.
Doctor, you're saying that so Sinovac and AstraZeneca na darating ngayong gabi, yun ang gagamitin bukas for rollout, and then yung Pfizer and Moderna sa kana. So yung Sinovac and AstraZeneca para sa second dose.
Yes, yung iba
So
ma'am,
So yung sa minors po, yung 12 to 17, hindi po sila mababakunahan bukas dahil wala pa yung Pfizer at Moderna.
yes ma'am. Yung walang schedule, supposed to be may schedule tomorrow, but we have to postpone it or move the schedule for next week if ever na darating yung ultra low freezer ng Pfizer. Tapos if ever na may darating din na bakuna from Pfizer na ibigay nila sa DOH sa amin, then we can start that next week soon. For tomorrow, ma'am, it's only for AstraZeneca and Sinovac.
Ano naman pong sinasabi nitong Interior Department that you have been asked to explain why there was a failure to deliver the vaccines 3 days after receipt? Kailan po natanggap itong mga bakuna na to? Yung mga lahat ng mga nasunog dito?
Yes, ma'am. If I may tell you the history of the vaccines, that the date that they arrived, ma'am, Sinovac, the AstraZeneca, the vaccines arrived on October 25. And then sa October 25, para rin sa this week sana yung schedule namin for first dose at saka yung remaining na mga second doses. Yung Pfizer naman dumating din October 25. The problem is the IPHO has the only ultra low freezer in Zamboanga del Sur. Tapos yung mga RHO wala silang storage ng Pfizer. So doon sa IPHO stored yung mga Pfizer vaccines. Saka yung Moderna dumating naman October 23 and 28, or the bulk of the Moderna arrived on October 28. So the yung fire ng IPHO start yung October 31. Nangyari yung October 31 ng 10:53 p.m. So hindi namin mabigay talaga at that moment, ma'am.
Oo. You know, Doctor, ang daming nadismaya, and nadismaya is an understatement, no? Dahil 150,000 doses of vaccines, and we are in a race against time to vaccinate people because we have a pandemic, and then this happens. So, syempre, everybody's wondering, ano ba talaga nangyari? I know that we all know there is an investigation still going on. Our investigators looking into this. But really, Dr. Kagampang, ano ba talaga nangyari dyan sa inyo?
Yes, ma'am. If we, based on the arrival of the vaccines, the month of October, dami talagang vaccines dumating. I-compare natin the previous month. So yung previous months, hindi kami masyado naka-store ng mga
Kagampang, I'm sorry, I need to interrupt you. My question is, what happened? Bakit nagkasunog? That is my question, sir.
Yes. Doon sa report ng ma'am, sa fire accident, ayon sa Bureau of Fire, the fire started at 10:53 p.m. sa Provincial Health Office located at Provincial Government Complex, Barangay Dao, Pagadian City. And then the incident was reported to Pagadian City Fire Station, and then what is implemented by the municipal fire stations and the PDRRMO, the Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction
Yes, Dr.
Office.
Kagampang, you said that already kanina po. Ang tanong ko po is, bakit nagkasunog?
So far, ma'am, walang, hindi pa final yung report ng Bureau of Fire kung saan talaga nagsimula, but definitely doon sa basement ng building ng provincial IPHO nagsimula yung sunog. Pero yung cause talaga, ma'am, hindi pa nila nabigay sa amin. Kaya ongoing pang investigation.
What else is in the basement, sir, apart from the vaccines? What else is stored there?
Doon sa basement, ma'am, nandoon yung main ng yung dito, ma'am, yung tawag na dito, yung plangka ng kuryente, yung main na
fuse box.
Yung current bitaw yung mga malalaking mga bang tawag doon, yung plangka saan yung tawag sa amin dito, ma'am. Tapos nandoon din yung yung maintenance department ng Zamboanga del Sur Medical Center. Nandoon din ang Philippine Red Cross at saka PIDOHO, provincial department, provincial DOH office ng DOH. So, bale, 4 kami nag-share doon sa isang building. So, doon sa basement, nandoon rin yung mga area ng TDSMC Maintenance Department. Yung mayroon doon mga, yes ma'am.
Maintenance. So
Doon
may
yung-
mga chemicals, cleaning,
walang
maintenance. So may mga cleaning, disinfectant, whatever.
Ang doon lang sa amin, ma'am, yung nasabi sa amin doon sa maintenance is only yung mga pang-repair na mga storage ng mga electrical supplies dito, ma'am, if ever walang ilaw, mayroong mga bulbs na doon, yung mga ganon.
All right. Well, Dr. Kagabang, I want to say thank you very much, but I hope this gets resolved right away. And just very, very unfortunate. Maraming salamat po sa inyo, Dr. Kagabang of the Integrated Provincial Health Office, Zamboanga del Sur. A glimmer of hope for thousands of overseas Filipino workers from Saudi Arabia who were displaced from their jobs in 2016. The Labor Department says the Saudi government has vowed they will receive their unpaid salaries just in time for Christmas next month. Our Tristan Nadalo reports.
Some 9,000 overseas Filipino workers who were displaced in Saudi Arabia are expected to receive around 4.6 billion pesos worth of unpaid wages in December. The assurance came from the Saudi Labor Minister, according to Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello.
Well, he assured me na he will do everything to settle the claims of our OFWs. Kasi nung inawi namin sila, because of yung almost 2 years sila hindi nasusweldoan, the government of Saudi Arabia already assured us na masesettle. After almost 5 years, hindi pa rin nasesettle.
The case can be traced back in 2016 when thousands of OFWs lost their jobs after some Saudi companies declared bankruptcy. Filipino workers brought their case to a Saudi court and won. But while waiting for their payment, they were forced to return home empty-handed. Among them was Lawrence Jimenez. He stopped receiving his salary in 2013 and was stranded in the Arab country for 5 years.
Masaya po ako dahil yan na rin lang inaasahan ko. Tapos ganito pa na pandemic. Siyempre po kahit na ilang taon po yung proseso, mahaba-habang proseso, pero nagkaroon nga po ng linaw. Kaya masaya din po ako kahit na matagal.
Ministry could be an early Christmas gift to thousands of unpaid OFWs. The Labor Department says that it will not hesitate to impose another deployment ban should it fail to fulfill its promise of paying the unpaid salaries of Filipino workers.
Yung mechanics ng distribution nito ay pag-usapan pa. Sa pagkakaunawa ko, magkakaroon pa ng mga serye ng pagpupulong, lalo na between Secretary Bello and the Saudi Labor Minister, para talagang mas lalo pa mabigyan ng linaw yung implementasyon itong pagbabayad.
The Philippine and Saudi labor officials are also discussing and providing insurance for Filipino workers to protect them in the event their employers go bankrupt. Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.
A presidential aspirant wants the Commission on Elections to cancel its $500 million pesos contract with F2 Logistics, which is owned by President Rodrigo Duterte's ally and campaign contributor in 2016, Dennis Uy. Partido Lakas ng Masa standard bearer Caliodi de Guzman notes the potential threat of the 536 million peso deal to the, quote, integrity of the poll process. Under the contract, F2 Logistics will handle the transport of election paraphernalia and supplies for 2022. De Guzman says the people must not disregard the personal relationship between Uy and the chief executive. In 2016, the Davao-based tycoon donated at least 30 million pesos to Duterte's presidential campaign. De Guzman also points out Uy's failure and incompetence in past transactions with the government. Uy is facing graft complaints over an alleged questionable sale of shares to his holdings firm, Udena Corporation, in the Malampaya gas-to-power project. It's not only the presidential hopeful who raises concerns over the deal. Netizens also pressuring the poll body with the hashtag cancel F2 Logistics contract among the top Twitter trends this afternoon. Poll watchdogs cite conflict of interest given Uy's close ties with the president. A Twitter user says Comic's deal with F2 Logistics should be revoked for a, quote, credible elections, while others say the country's future may be at stake. For its part, COMELEC says safeguards are in place to prevent tampering with the outcome of the 2022 polls. The spokesman For the commission, James Jimenez explains in a series of tweets, strict monitoring protocols will be imposed. CNN Philippines has reached out to F2 Logistics for comment, but it has yet to respond. Uy's firm served as Comlex courier for the 2018 barangay polls and the 2019 midterm polls. The 2022 elections will be like no other, with former professional basketball players throwing their hats into the ring. Join me in politics as usual as we speak to former Ginebra Cager and Pasig City Congressman Vice Mayoral aspirant Dodo Jaworski and multi-titled collegiate head coach and Quezon City 3rd District Councilor, congressional aspirant Franz Pumarin. That's tonight at 8:30, only here on CNN Philippines, news you can trust. News overseas now. A landmark deal amid a crucial climate summit taking place in Glasgow in Scotland. Over 100 world leaders agreed to end deforestation by 2030 during the United Nations Climate Change Conference, or COP26. The countries taking part include Canada, Russia, Brazil, Colombia, and Indonesia. All have significant tracts of forest that hold the most important carbon absorbers or reservoirs. Leaders are expected to officially make the announcement today and commit about $12 billion American dollars of public funds to protecting and restoring forests. More key developments from the summit. India announcing a target date for net zero emissions, pledging to become carbon neutral by 2070. But that is decades later than other countries who vowed to do the same by 2050. The leader of the world's biggest carbon emitter, meanwhile, was absent from the summit. Chinese President Xi Jinping only sent a statement saying his country would, quote, rein in the irrational development of energy-intensive and high-emission projects. Still ahead on Newsnight, a Marvel star is breathing life into comic strip cat Garfield in a new animated film. Details after the break.
Quincentenary Faith Rewind.
The image of Santo Niño may have come from Michelin, Flanders, now part of Belgium. There are surviving images that resemble the one in Cebu from 16th century Flanders. King Charles I of Spain grew in Flanders and must have obtained and given images of the Santo Niño for the expedition.
KBP marks 500 years of Christianity and this station.
Zanorte Glass Aluminum Installation Services. They offer window blinds, modern window shadings, swing doors, sliding doors and windows, frameless doors, awning windows, jalousie windows, curtain walls, shower enclosure, top glass, and aquariums. Ang Zanorte Glass Aluminum Installation Services ana mahimutang sa National Highway Santa Filomena, Dipolog City o mahimong mutawag sa cellphone number 0918-965-7158 o 0917-533-3022. Anaadihang atong maabi-abihon nga tagiya si Mr. and Mrs. Lucino L. Dalde o ilang anak si John Austin Dalde. Tara na, magpa-install na ta sa Zanorte Glass Aluminum Installation Services.
He's out for showing China's so-called 9-dash line. Some scenes displayed a map with a U-shaped feature that symbolizes China's claim over most of the South China Sea. The MTRCB ordered the streaming platform to pull out the episodes with a map that was, quote, consciously designed to show that the 9-dash line exists. The Permanent Court of Arbitration invalidated China's 9-dash line claim back in a 2016 ruling. Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. also tweeted about the removal, saying Netflix should be reported to the appropriate U.S. agency. Another series from Netflix is gaining attention. The digital currency Squid, inspired by the hit show Squid Game, now trades at $0 after creators cashed out an estimated $2.1 million from investors. The cryptocurrency was marketed as a token for an online game. Squid surged at almost $3,000 per share, but founders did what crypto investors call a rug pull. They abandoned the project and traded virtual coins for real money. A website for tracking crypto assets warned that this was probably a scam because investors are unable to resell Squid. Chris Pratt is set to voice another childhood favorite. Audiences will soon get to hear the Marvel star as the beloved comic strip cat Garfield in a new animated movie. Chris will follow Bill Murray, who voiced the feline cartoon in previous films. Pratt posted about the role, making playful reference to Garfield's hatred over Mondays. The actor is also taking on another iconic animated character. He's voicing Mario in Nintendo's December 2022 film about the popular video game figure. It is 53 days before Christmas, and that is it for tonight. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Ang RPN Dex Kini Radio Ronda 1053 kHz.
Dapitan City Councilor Jezebel Bing Balisado, konsehal sa Dakbayan sa Dapitan nga dali duulon og maabibihon sa iyang mga katawhan. Konsehal Bing Balisado maluluyon og matinabangon sa tanang higayon. Konsehal Bing Balisado sa Dakbayan sa Dapitan.
Honorable Angel Halusos Carion, Batanon, Buutan ug Malagaron, City Councilor of Dapitan City. Chairman, Committee on Tourism, Committee on Labor, Committee on Child Welfare and Development. Honorable Angel Halusos Carion, Batanon, Buutan ug Malagaron, City Councilor of Dapitan City.
Mga higalan namong suking tigpaminaw, maayong adlaw kaninyong tanan. Ang DX Kini EM Station RPN Management Dipolog City magpahigayon og libreng panag-inambitay sa pulong sa Ginoo. Dialogo sa kamaturan. Among giawag tanang magawali sa naglain-laing relihiyon sa pagtambong ning maong programa. Dialogo sa kamaturan. Aron mapabati sa tanang katawhan ang inyong matag baruganan, sumala sa kamaturan alang sa hingpit nga kaluwasan ug kinabuhing walay katapusan. Dialogo sa kamaturan.
Ang dialogo sa kamaturan ninyong mabati matag alas 3 ngadto sa alas 5 sa hapon adlong Domingo.
RPN Radio Philippines Network DXKD Dipolo Radio Ronda Member kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Even before the pandemic, the average person spends about half of their day sitting down. A typical office worker would do as much as 15 hours of sitting in a day. Since the arrival of COVID, though, those numbers have more than likely only gone up. Medical experts, however, warn that a sedentary lifestyle can result in a number of major health problems. But what exactly is so bad about sitting down? What sort of health problems can they contribute to? And how do we get more movement in our lives when restrictions due to COVID limit where and what we can do? Today on the show, we'll talk about why some experts are calling sitting as the new smoking. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome to MedTalk Health Talk, where your care comes first. You're watching CNN Philippines. The body is meant to move. When you sit down, you use less energy. That also means you can increase your risk of physical and mental health issues. Let's welcome our guests for today. With us is Dr. Richard Henry Chonco II. He's an interventional cardiologist from the UP-PGH and the Philippine Heart Association's Director and Advocacy Chair Committee. Also with us is Mr. Michael Gabilo. He's the president of the Philippine Physical Therapy Association. Now, while relaxation and rest is very important to the body, like many things we enjoy too much, it can be a bad thing. Now, studies show that people who sit for more than 8 hours a day with no exercise had a similar risk of dying to those posed by obesity and smoking. Now, Dr. Ricky, what exactly happens to our body? Bakit ganun kasama pag nakaupo ang tao for that long a time?
We have to understand we're not really designed by nature to be sedentary. We're supposed to be pretty active. That's why we have legs. That's why we have our extremities, and that's why our muscles are actually built for walking. No? And actually, if we don't walk, our cardiovascular system does not take up. When we walk, we actually train our heart. When we break a sweat, we make our heart healthy. And at the same time, circulation gets improved when we use our legs and move around. Now, the reverse is true. If we don't move around and we don't use our legs, then the return of blood to the heart will be impeded, and we can also form clots the longer that we sit around. So sedentary lifestyle is not only bad for not burning calories, you won't be able to burn your calories well, but it also decreases your health in terms of the cardiovascular situation.
Okay, so you made it clear na it's very important for our heart health that we don't be sedentary. And we often think of regular exercise as well as diet as being the most important factors to a healthy lifestyle. Pero Dr. Ricky, why is minimizing or keeping that sedentary time to a minimum just as important for our health?
Well, let's put it this way. If we don't change and we're like couch potatoes, we're always sitting around or lying in bed and we're not active, we tend to become obese. Our muscles become atrophic. We actually gain increase in inflammation, decrease in conditioning, and this actually also may actually lead to depression or decrease in your functional status, not only for the body but also for the mind. So all of these things are not exactly healthy for the individual.
Actually, when you're sitting more, you're moving less, and you also slow down your metabolism. Now, let's remind our audience again about the benefits of exercising on a regular basis. Now, I emphasize here on a regular basis because I'd like to ask Mike about this. They say that regular exercise on a regular basis is what really counts. How important is this, Mike? A lot of people work for a huge number of days in the week and they just find enough time for health exercise probably on the weekends. Is this enough exercise for the average person?
So exercise for like 2 days in a week will not really match or will not really answer or reverse some of the possible risks that you can acquire. So it should be really on a regular basis. And the type of exercise or physical activity that you should be doing will be really dependent on your age. So there are specific exercise appropriate for each age bracket.
Studies say that people who move more during the course of the day are not just physically healthier, but mentally as well. Now, when you're active, you also activate happy hormones like serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, as well as endorphins. Now, Dr. Ricky, itong mga hormones na to, ano ba yung mga benefits na ito? Bakit sila tinawag na happy hormones para sa ating katawan?
So the more exercise that we do in a week, then that reaches around 1 hour a day for most days of the week, 5 times or more a week, is tied into less depression, which means that we actually function better is because these endorphins are like neurotransmitters, or they're actually substances in the brain that only get released or usually get released with exercise, with adequate exercise. So when this happens, it makes us actually sound in mind. And when we're sound in mind, we're actually also sound in body. So when we actually do have more endorphins, it's because of the exercise. We not only train our mind, but we also train our body.
Lowered amounts of those hormones could lead to actually depression and anxiety, which can then weaken our immune system. Now, during this time of COVID-19, a strong immune system is what we definitely need. Now, Mike, we do want to remind our audience about what it takes to have a well-working immune system. Please remind our viewers regarding that.
When we talk about of the immune system, these are actually group of organs of the body, including the cells who are working together to ensure that agents or causative agents for diseases are properly detected. So if we have an immune system that is working properly, our immune system can easily monitor these agents that can possibly cause diseases. And one of the best way to really boost our immune system is through exercises and physical activities.
Now, as you can see, it's all pretty much related. So boosting our immune system requires eating well, of course, getting adequate sleep, as well as being active. And it means moving somewhat and not sitting too much. Now, coming up next, a closer look at the high-risk problems your body may be facing due to prolonged sitting. We'll explain after a short break.
RPN Dex Skinny Radio Runda 1053 kHz. Let's be the solution plus sa COVID-19. D. Bawal walang mask at face shield. I. Isanitize ang kamay at iwasan ang kulob na lugar. D. Dumistansya ng 1 metro at limitahan ang pisikal na interaksyon sa iba. A. Alamin ang tamang impormasyon. Plus, suportahan ang FDA-approved na bakuna. BIDA Plus. Bida Solusyon Plus sa COVID-19.
Isang paalala mula sa Department of Health, Zamboanga Peninsula.
News Recap Pupong on board. Pangitabo sa tulo ka distrito sa Zamboanga del Norte, kalambuan sa politika, showbiz o agrikultura. News Recap Pupong on board. Ginilang sa Radio Runda alas 6 ngadto sa alas 9 adlawng Domingo.
Paturagas. Watod kaninyo sa mga labas ng mga balita. Paturagas. Mga balitang gikan sa lokal, regional ug nasyonal nga mga tinubdan. Paturagas. Bisgot sa bisan unsang hinisgutanan nga may kalabigitan sa katawhan. Paturagas. Inyong mabati din hilamang sa RPN Dex Kiri Dipulo 1053 sa dial sa inyong mga radyo. Ang tulumanong Paturagas
inyong mabati matag alas 8 ngadto na sa alas 9 sa buntag,
Lunes hangtod Biyernes. RPN Dex Kiri Radio Runda 1053 kHz.
You're watching Med Talk Health Talk on CNN Philippines, where caring is our calling. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez. Now, in general, humans are built to stand upright, and we can burn more calories standing up as opposed to just sitting down. Now, Dr. Ricky, how does prolonged sitting contribute to heart disease? We want to focus specifically on the heart this time.
Yes, so sitting actually has effects for both the heart and the blood vessels. That is prolonged sitting. So if we keep just sitting down and we're not actually increasing our heart rate and training our heart to a higher heart rate and breaking a sweat, not only will our muscles deteriorate, but also the function and the situation of our heart. So our heart actually has to burn better fuel, not only during the resting period, but actually also during a higher exercise situation. If we don't get to train our heart, then technically not only will we have muscle problems for the heart, but basically atherosclerosis. And usually atherosclerosis is tied in with poor metabolism. That is also the eating that occurs when a patient is sedentary. That includes junk food and other sodas that might actually be detrimental to not only the heart, but also the blood vessels. And patients actually are people who are actually on long flights, for example. Just one long flight, like let's say anywhere between 12 and 19 hours, for example, and you don't do your foot pumps and you don't walk around when you're allowed to in the plane. Out of 1 million people, around 1,000 people can get blood clots that can flow to the lungs.
Okay,
That's called pulmonary embolism.
Now, Dr. Ricky, that's a very interesting point you made. So people in long flights, they can have some effect on the cardiovascular system, especially on their legs. Can this scenario be the same with those who are working from home for extended hours, sitting in front of their computers for several hours, going through several meetings or whatnot?
That is not impossible. As we mentioned, 1,000 out of 1 million were actually prolonged sitting. Sometimes when you're working intensely, you don't mind your body position, you don't mind moving around, and you think everything's okay because you're focused on the screen. But we not only have to rest our eyes and look away, we actually have to stand up and move our legs and in fact actually get a break. And if we don't get breaks by actually walking around, doing some semi-squats in place and doing some calisthenics in place, not making our heart work out, then we're actually up for trouble.
And you also bring up important word there, which is atherosclerosis. Please explain to our viewers how this affects the heart eventually in the long run.
Yes, so atherosclerosis is a natural thing, and it's actually also a pathology or a problem. It's a natural thing because it occurs with age. And as we get older, even if we don't smoke or do all the bad things like a bad diet, our arteries tend to harden. But the thing is, it's worse for some more than others. And if we smoke, we eat the unhealthy foods like the fatty and the salty foods, our arteries become more brittle, or in Tagalog, it's called like kinakalawang. No? Anong ba yung kalawang? It's like really more of compilation of dirt and inflammation that actually makes the caliber of our blood vessels smaller or narrower. And remember, our own heart, which is the size of the fist, no? The blood vessels that are actually as big as highways are on top of the heart. And when those clog inside, then technically we will experience things like chest pain or even get a heart attack.
Okay. Now, when you sit for a long period of time, you also severely limit the calories that you can burn. And as a result, your body's ability to process those fat calories slow down as well. Now, Mike, talk to us about the effects of this katawan ng isang tao na palaging nakaupo.
In exercise physiology, there is what we call metabolic equivalent. So the metabolic equivalent in its basic essence, it is the amount of oxygen needed by the body in order for us to perform a specific task or an activity. So the more oxygen that we consume, the more calories that we are burning. Now, if, for example, during muscle contraction or during muscle activities, because that's part of in order for us to perform activities, our muscles should contract. Muscle contraction would require oxygen. So, kapag tayo ay nakatayo or naglalakad tayo, there are more muscles being recruited. Therefore, since marami yung muscles na nare-recruit, we are burning more calories compared to sitting. In 1 hour, yung pag-upo natin, that we are just only burning 60 to 130 calories versus walking or standing up, which can burn more than that, like around 1 to 200 calories per hour.
Aside from prolonged sitting down, kapag sinabayan naman ito ng poor posture as well, this can cause increased stress on the neck, the shoulders, as well as the spine. Now, Mike, anong klaseng mga problema naman ang pwedeng makita because of this? What kind of stress can this lead to?
Because of the prolonged sitting that we are, most of the laborers or workers are experiencing right now because of the work from home setup. So maraming mga poor postures na enhance or na highlight during this time. So there could be some tightness of the muscles, particularly of the chest, the upper back, and the neck. And at the same time, this could also be aggravated because of some poor vascularization or poor blood supply going to the muscle tissues. So these are actually causing pain to our body, or it creates pain. And at the same time, yung ating mga joints, ligaments, that these are also affected. So anything that is really stretched or tight in our body can create pain and can be worse in the future na mag-lead to severe tightness or contracture na tinatawag.
Okay. Now, do you think, Mike, that these prolonged sitting situations can also aggravate any comorbid conditions that the person may have, such as diabetes, maybe?
Or you are positioned in a prolonged sitting, this will definitely make your vascularization or your blood flow rather, slower. So this will affect the oxygenation to the muscle tissues.
Now, at the end of the day, prolonged sitting affects the human body in many different ways. Sitting means not moving, and that causes weight gain, which can then lead to a host of other problems if left uncontrolled. Now, we've heard the bad news about sitting so far. So what's the good news? The good news is there's plenty you can do to prevent yourself from falling into a sedentary life. And we'll tell you how after the break. Your health is our mission here on MedTalk Health Talk. Stay with us.
Kini ang RPN Dex Kini Radio Runda 1053 kHz.
Dapitan City Councilor Jezebel Bing Balisado, konsihal sa Dakbayan sa Dapitan nga dali duulon og maabibihon sa iyang mga katawhan. Konsihal Bing Balisado maluluyon og matinabangon sa tanang higayon. Konsihal Bing Balisado sa Dakbayan sa Dapitan. DXKD Ronda Balita. Mga balitang may kamatuuran, way gidapigan og hilisgutanan sa katawhan. DXKD Ronda Balita. Mga labas nga mga balita gikan sa sinaligang mga tinugdagan. Balitang hinimo sa lawak balitaanan. Diin inyong madungog ang mga balitang lokal, regional, national ug international ug uban pang may kalabutan sa atong kadiliman. Gihatod kaninyo live gikan sa RPN DXKD Radio Ronda Broadcast Center. DXKD Ronda Balita. Inyong madungog matag adlong Lunes hangtod Biyernes alas 12 hangtod sa alas 2 sa kahaponon ug makita usab sa RPN DXKD Dipolog Facebook page, YouTube ug sa Twitter. DXKD Ronda Balita.
RPN DXKD Radio Ronda 1053 kHz.
We put your health first here on the program. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. And I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez. So far, we've been discussing how sitting too long can lead to multiple health issues. Now it's time to find out what we can do about it. While we all understand that the current pandemic makes it more difficult to get out and about, there are still plenty of things that we can do to offset the effects of a sedentary lifestyle. Now, these days, people may be moving as little as 60 minutes a day, which much of that is due to people using electronic devices for work as well as school. Now, Mike, what are some things that our viewers can do to add some movement while they are stuck at their desk, whether for work or for school?
So if, for example, you observe that you've been sitting for like more than 45 minutes already, so it's time for you to actually stand up, do some squats. You can walk around the area. While you are walking, you can perform simple stretches of your shoulder, of your wrist muscles. You can do neck movements from side to side, front and back. And then you can also perform lunges, okay? That will somehow stretch your muscles of your lower limbs. And also, we have to incorporate proper breathing exercises because this will somehow, again, improve the oxygenation of our blood.
That's right. And what we're trying to say here is to break up that cycle. So in between meetings and answering phone calls and emails, stand up, maybe move around a bit, stretch now and again. Now, just get up from that chair and move more than usual. But of course, leading an active life is the best way to combat the effects of a sedentary life, and it's never too late to start. Walking and biking are great ways to get exercise outside, but what if we're stuck inside? Dr. Ricky, what are some things that people can do kaya inside their homes to help keep them from becoming sedentary but still achieve that amount of work that the heart really needs?
You know, actually, we get this notion that to exercise you have to spend a lot or actually run a lot around the neighborhood. That may be partly true, but not exclusive. We can actually, as mentioned a while ago, stand in front of our computer when we're walking and, as mentioned, doing the squats. But the point here is we have to do a number of reps. No? Anywhere between 30 to 50 reps of squatting or semi-squats, doing sidestepping. You know, these actually burn calories. And the more use of our leg muscles or the large muscle groups actually also increases the training capacity of our body and the heart. So the more reps that we do at home that include semi-squats or even lunges if we can, or even half jumping jacks, not necessarily push-ups, will actually get our body going. And you know that if we get our body going, we actually fight obesity and we actually also train the heart.
Now remember, even a regular exercise routine may not be enough to offset the increased risks of too many hours of sitting down. However, adding some form of activity that's not necessarily a full-on exercise routine could greatly reduce these risks and possibly add even years to your life. We'd like to thank our guest, cardiologist Dr. Richard Henry Tionco, the second, and physical therapist Mr. Michael Gabilo. Maraming salamat sa expertise ninyong dalawa. So let's get on the move together, whether it's following a virtual workout, walking around the neighborhood, biking, or just standing up while working. Make sure to stay safe and stay active. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and thank you for watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines.